right, we got to talk about this. It's everywhere. Lizzo changed a lyric in her new song, Grrrls, after some people in the disabled community said she used an offensive word. So the part of the song in question said, quote, "Hold my bag, do you see this blank? I'm a spaz." And I say that purposefully because the word spaz is considered an ableist slur in some countries, including the UK. Here in the US, it generally just means freaking out. Well, after the outcry from fans and disability advocates, Lizzo responded, tweeting, "We had many hurtful words used against me, so I overstand the power that words can have. I'm proud to say there's a new version of Grrrls with a lyric change." Now, the new lyric is, quote, "Hold my bag, do you see this blank? Hold me back." And if you didn't know, spaz is also short for spastic, which is often used to tease people with things like cerebral palsy or where there's shaking or things like that. So that's really where the hurt comes in.
But it is also a medical term.
It is, yes. Spastic is actually part of the description or diagnosis.
And I'm not defending this. I actually understand this, and I have kind of firsthand experience with this. I did a show with the BBC we did 100 episodes, and so they would come over here to the States, and you don't realize some words are really taboo in their culture. We were at a college campus, and we were doing something with one of their mascots, just another shoot like we had, and the mascots had on the back of it, it said maniacs, which is like, yeah, you're being a maniac. You can say that in like they made the cameras cut away immediately. I think that's like a really, really, really offensive term over there, where you would just say, Lawson, quit being a maniac. We got company, you know? And so like that was my first, just seeing like how different you can grow up with words. So I know for a fact like spaz is not looked at as like really as bad, but they wanted to change, so I kind of get it.
I get it too, but I want to come at this from like a different angle. We had to say bleep. We had to bleep one word because you're not allowed to say it, but we could say spaz. I think in the near future we're going to not be able to say spaz. If you're not meaning it like derogatory, my kind of point of view is like if I say this, this story is very crippling to my point, I'm not allowed to say that because it might offend somebody. If I say this person's cancerous to the whole company, well, my mom died of cancer. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way or trying to lessen you, but my thing is we're taking all these words and making new words, and if in the dictionary it has, what it says, you look up a word and it has 4 different meanings, if one of them someone's offended by, we have to get rid of the whole word. So that's where I'm wondering how far is this culture going to go, where we have to continue to cancel words because someone's being offended, and it might not even be the person who does have spasms, quote unquote. It might just be someone who's saying, I just want to be offended by something. That's where my problem lies.
I do believe that most people who are speaking out do have some type of reason, a personal reason, as to why they find it offensive. But I'm going to meet you where you're at with the idea that you can have a word that someone is offended by, but your intention was not to be offensive.
Right.
I think that happens all the time. We're all guilty of doing it, like numerous times probably. But I think where it goes from a conversation to a combat is the way that Lizzo handled that. That word wasn't meaningful to her. She was using it as just another word in her art. And because it had no true meaning to her, but she realized that people who support her and are fans of her were offended by it, then she did the right thing and just changed the word. I think a lot of times people hold on to things like, oh, well, I can't do this or I can't say that. But it really doesn't mean to you what it means to the demographic who's affected. So why is it so difficult to just modify?
Right.
It's a thing. Go ahead.
But I'm just saying, like, I totally understand it. Lizzo did do the right thing. I want to be on the same page with everybody. But if you're taking the word that does have another meaning, such as, let's go back to crippling, right? You say that. I was told not to say that anymore. That song by the Black Eyed Peas, let's get R in here. I can't even say the word. I'm not calling anybody that word. I can't even repeat the word, which I think is getting ridiculous, that you can't even say a word without it being offended, even if you're not using it in a derogatory term.
I hear a lot of what you're saying, and I just think there's a lot of historical context to words and history. So cripple to me means something very different because my mom's handicapped, and cripple was something that was used against us in a way. So to me, that word is like bright right, and it is not okay. So when you use it, even though your intent is not to make fun of anyone who has that word, it would be easier for you to change that word than it would for that entire historical context to shift.
And I totally do, and I get that, and I'm growing with this. But if again, it's just you're using words like I use the example, this person's cancerous to the whole organization. If my mom died of cancer, you're not allowed to use that word in that term. That makes no sense. People need to have some discernment of what's offensive and what's not. And there are some things that are very offensive, and I totally get, and I'm willing to change. But we're pushing that borderline of like, listen, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, or what I can and can't
Jeff,
say.
I want to give you an example of a real life example of how I dealt with that, and it had to do with you, Erica. I was talking to my girl, and I was like, you know, I look at Erica as my spirit animal. Like I look at her as my guide for like how I want to handle emotional affairs. I'm dead serious.
Everybody on earth thinks that. Yep.
And my girl was like, you know, that's very offensive to indigenous people, and I did not realize that was a religious term, and I was using it kind of flippantly. And it's not like just like you would use crippling or something like that. I think the second half of it that we have to get to is how you respond. So if somebody says, Al, spirit animal is offensive. Jeff saying the crippling tax bill is offensive. If you go, I'm going to still say it. That's much different than I'm sorry I did not know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how you respond. That's how I responded. Totally. I think we have the back and forth, but the last volley that we don't talk about is once you've been informed that it's offensive, what is your next move?
What's your move? Yep.
Do you want to double down? Do you want to go on the comments on Joe Rogan and say, I'm going to still say it because you can't stop me and it's my right, okay? Or Jeff would be like, my bad. Al would be like,
I'll find another word.
Right. So there's, yes, it's like, do you want to have the argument about what's offensive, or do you just want to be a good person and just like realize that language evolves? Everything evolves. I listen to old hip hop songs, artists I love, and like sometimes songs that I'm thinking about putting to play as a DJ, I'm like, oh my goodness, there is an F-bomb in this song. And not, oh, I'm sorry. Honestly, the worst.
We've joked about that at the break too.
Honestly, no, not that one. The worse one than that one. That's
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
So
That's
like,
fair.
yeah. So it's,
I'm going to
it's
get you
amazing.
out of this,
Yes,
buddy.
Thank
All
you.
right, that was excellent.
Say it one more time.
No, you're not saying it. It's like Beetlejuice.